The room was cloaked in darkness, the only source of illumination being the feeble glow of the street lamp outside my bedroom window. My body lay still, trapped within the confines of my own paralysis. I could sense every nerve, every muscle screaming for release, yet I remained frozen, a prisoner in my own bed. The weight of an invisible presence pressed down on my chest, making it hard to breathe. Panic began to seep into my veins as I desperately tried to move, to scream, to do anything to break free from the relentless grip of my sleep paralysis. But my body refused to respond. That's when I felt it. A chilling sensation slithered up my leg, like icy fingers inching their way towards my chest. My eyes, wide open but powerless, darted around the room, scanning the shadows that danced menacingly on the walls. My heart pounded in my chest, a cacophonous drumbeat of terror. I strained to turn my head, to catch a glimpse of whatever sinister presence lurked in the room with me. And then, I saw it. A twisted, shadowy figure, barely discernible against the darkness, stood at the foot of my bed. Its eyes glowed with a malevolent crimson, boring into my soul. I tried to scream, to summon any semblance of sound, but my voice remained imprisoned, a feeble whisper trapped in my throat. My mind raced, my pulse quickened, and a relentless dread gripped me as the creature began to move. With agonizing slowness, it crept closer, and in its gnarled, skeletal hand, it clutched something. My heart skipped a beat as I recognized the object. A small, tattered doll, twisted into a grotesque mockery of humanity. Its eyes were soulless voids, its limbs contorted into unnatural angles. The creature reached out with its other hand, and I felt its frigid touch on my forehead. It traced a cold, serpentine path down my cheek, leaving a trail of goosebumps in its wake. My mind screamed for release, for escape, but my body remained unresponsive. Then, with a guttural, otherworldly whisper, the creature spoke. Its voice was a dissonant symphony of torment, sending shivers down my spine. "I bring you gifts," it hissed, its crimson eyes never leaving mine. Terror surged through me as I realized what it meant. My sleep paralysis demon had started leaving disturbing gifts, and this was only the beginning. Morning came like a reluctant savior, finally pulling me from the clutches of sleep paralysis. I gasped for air, drenched in sweat, and my heart raced as I scanned the room. The demon was gone, the malevolent presence vanquished with the light of day, but the memory of its visit lingered, haunting my thoughts like a nightmare that refused to fade. I tried to rationalize what had happened the night before. Maybe it was just a vivid dream, a product of my overactive imagination, but the vividness of the encounter, the palpable sense of dread, made it impossible to dismiss so easily. I decided to confide in my closest friend, Sarah, who had always been a voice of reason in my life. When I recounted the tale of the sleep paralysis demon and the disturbing doll it had left behind, her face twisted into a mixture of concern and disbelief. "You've been under a lot of stress lately," she said, attempting to offer a rational explanation. "Maybe it was just a hallucination brought on by exhaustion." I nodded, desperately wanting to believe her, but the lingering fear in the pit of my stomach refused to be silenced. We spent the rest of the day together, trying to distract ourselves with mundane activities, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. As night descended once more, I reluctantly returned to my bedroom, feeling a sense of foreboding that I couldn't ignore. The room felt colder, more oppressive than before. I hesitated, then turned on all the lights, as if the brightness would banish the darkness and the horrors that lurked within it. I climbed into bed, my heart racing, and tried to convince myself that I was safe. But sleep was elusive, and as the minutes turned into hours, my anxiety deepened. then, just as I was about to drift into an uneasy slumber, I heard it. A soft, scratching sound, like nails against wood. My eyes flew open, and I scanned the room, heart pounding. There, on my nightstand, was a new gift from the demon. It was a small, blood-red ribbon, stained with what looked like fresh blood. Panic clawed at me as I realized that the demon's visits were not mere nightmares. They were all too real, and it was leaving increasingly disturbing gifts. I couldn't deny it any longer. Something sinister had invaded my life, and it was not going away. Sleep paralysis had become a waking nightmare, and I had no idea how to stop it. Each passing night brought new horrors, and my life became an unending descent into terror. The gifts from my sleep paralysis demon grew more macabre, each one a grotesque symbol of its malevolence. I had become a prisoner in my own home, unable to escape the relentless torment. Sarah, worried beyond measure, insisted that I seek help from a priest or a paranormal investigator. Reluctantly, I agreed, desperate for any glimmer of hope. The priest performed a cleansing ritual, but it only seemed to anger the demon. That night, it appeared with a sinister grin, holding a crucifix it had twisted into a blasphemous shape. I couldn't endure this nightmare any longer. I began researching the demon, poring over books and obscure websites, trying to find a way to banish it. The more I learned, the more I realized the enormity of my predicament. This was no ordinary demon. It was an ancient entity, a collector of souls and tormentor of minds. One evening, as I delved deeper into my research, I stumbled upon an account of a woman who had faced a similar demon. Desperate and driven to madness, she claimed to have made a pact with it to end her suffering. The words of the pact were horrifying, promising unspeakable acts in exchange for freedom from the demon's torment. I hesitated, my mind consumed by dread, but with each passing night, the demon's gifts grew more nightmarish. I felt its icy breath on my neck, its shadowy presence growing stronger. I knew I had no choice. With trembling hands, I lit a black candle and began to recite the unholy pact, the words feeling like a curse etched into my soul. The room grew colder, and the air thickened with malevolence as I sealed the pact with my own blood. The moment the ritual was complete, the room plunged into darkness, and I felt a searing pain in my chest. The demon materialized before me, its crimson eyes now filled with triumph. It leaned close, its fetid breath brushing my ear. "Your suffering is over," it hissed, and with a cruel smile, it vanished into the night, leaving me alone, trembling and broken. In the days that followed, I felt a gnawing emptiness, a void where my fear had once resided. The demon was gone, but at a terrible cost. I had made a pact with evil itself, and I knew that the horrors I had unleashed would haunt me for the rest of my days. The sleep paralysis demon had left, but the darkness within me remained, a constant reminder of the terrible price I had paid for my freedom.